Estimating the Value of Irrational Numbers, Lesson 2 Notes. This whole lesson is on irrational numbers. So every number that they give you will be an irrational number. So remember, an irrational number is a decimal that does not repeat, nor does it terminate. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be estimating the value. We're going to round. Or we're going to use other methods to find an approximate answer. One thing we might be asked to do is to determine the two closest integers for an irrational number. In other words, we want to know, what does this number fall between? What two integers does this number fall between? To do that, you want to first find the two perfect squares that the number falls between. You're going to find the two perfect squares that the number falls between. For example, determine the two closest integers for the square root of 8. Determine the two closest integers for the square root of 8. Well, first of all, let's take a look at our perfect squares chart. We made a chart of the perfect squares in your lesson 1 notes, I gave you a handout that has a chart of the perfect squares on it. Also, either way, it doesn't matter what you use. I'm going to use this chart that I made. So I want to find what number that 8 falls between. Don't worry about the square root right now, just worry about the 8. 8 falls between what two numbers? Well, 8 would fall between 4 and 9. So it says what perfect squares surround the 8? The perfect squares that surround 8 would be 4 and 9. So if 8 falls between 4 and 9, then that means it would go the square root of 4, the square root of 8 would be between, and then the square root of 9. So 8 falls between 4 and 9. Therefore, the square root of 8 would fall between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. So now let's find what the actual square roots are. So I'm going to put down the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. Well, in the chart I made over here, the square root of the numbers is underneath it. So what is underneath the 4 and the 9? Well, the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is 3. So the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is 3. So what two integers, or what are the closest integers for the square root of 8? What two integers does the square root of 8 fall between? It falls between 2 and 3. If you wanted to check me, you could check our answer. You could put it in your calculator to see what you get. If you do put this number in your calculator, you would get 2.8284, and then it keeps going. Does 2.8 fall between 2 and 3? Yes, it does. And you could even think of it a little bit more. The number 8 is closer to 9. Therefore, the square root of 8 should be closer to the square root of 9. And 2.8 is closer to 3. If you have any questions on what I just did there, let me know. I'm going to be doing a whole lot more examples before I do example 1.